Well, it's been a couple of weeks since we last released an episode. Good thing nothing major happened while we were out.
I mean, just the complete reset of the DC universe.
Okay. There
That's
was
not
that.
much.
Not much else, though. Yeah.
No, just other than the full release of Tales of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's okay.
I guess we could talk about that too, along with a couple episodes of Andor.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
I guess we should just hope that this episode doesn't take 2 hours to record. This is Tatooine Sons.
It's true. All of it.
What is the name of the porg on the Millennium Falcon?
Force is strong in my family.
What do you think his name is? It's a big moment.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Maybe Turbis?
Do or do not. There is no try.
Turbis? Pablo, if you're listening to this live stream, that porg's name is now Turbis. It's a good Star Wars name.
We're not done yet.
These guys recorded an awesome podcast called Tatooine Sons. Everybody was
Like the cosplay of being a prisoner in Andor would be really easy to pull off.
And also confused with THX.
It does. They have very
Yeah.
THX 1138 vibes.
I bet you that was on purpose.
I think
I'm
so
100%
too.
thinking it
Yeah,
on purpose.
it felt like that for me. I thought that right away. Did you guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Well, welcome to Tatooine Sons, a pop culture podcast, the only fan podcast to name a canon Star Wars creature and to be endorsed by the writer-director of The Last Jedi and Knives Out
And Glass Onion.
and Glass Onion.
And apparently some series thing.
Peacock, yeah.
Yeah.
On Peacock. Yeah, what's that all about? Ryan Johnson.
It's like
That guy.
It's
That-
like
he's pretty
a
cool.
once a week mystery TV
It's
show.
like an
thing.
Agatha Christie,
I
Alfred
guess, I
Hitchcock
don't know.
style.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm all
ready
right with
for
that.
Totally in on that. We believe that pop culture is the mythology of our generation, that there is a story. It is written on our souls, and that these myths speak to that story. And that is why we talk about Star Wars and Marvel and DC and not any Lord of the Rings this
No,
week.
I'm sad. I'm sad.
Not even any Marvel.
No.
Should we go ahead and give our reactions to the final episodes of She-Hulk? Oh, we should probably watch them first.
Yeah.
And all the other
I
epic
Has
franchises.
it seriously been that long?
It has. That you love so much. I am David. I am the dad.
Hi, Dad.
Hello, gentlemen. I am honored to be joined every week by my two amazing sons. Shmuley,
That's me.
what you doing? What are we talking about?
Filoni has done it once again.
Have we ever doubted him?
No, I
he's
don't think we've
amazing.
ever doubted him. No.
That's awesome. What about you, BB Nate?
I guess The Rock wasn't lying about the DCU. DCEU changing with Black Adam.
Yes, very much so.
You dead?
Yeah. Andor is becoming some of the most powerful political commentary in the history of
You
Star
should have just
Wars.
left it as Andor is becoming some of the most powerful Star Wars.
It's been pretty good.
It's pretty good.
For all of you that are out there listening, thank you so much for listening to the show. We do appreciate that, truly. And if you have not taken time to subscribe or follow or whatever it is on your podcast app, that's getting confusing now. I don't know if you guys
there's all
realize
sorts
that.
of different.
Well, it's confusing because everybody's doing it differently. But then on Apple, I think that you can and Spotify, I think you can follow a podcast for their free episodes, but then you can also subscribe to a paid.
Right.
And we don't do that.
I don't think that happens on Spotify.
You get this. You get this free.
Yeah, this is
Right.
free. We should start
we're-
making paid episodes.
We love you.
Cool.
because so many people will listen to the paid episodes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, maybe
And
not.
we have
we talk
time to
about?
record additional paid episodes.
We'll just
Oh yeah, that's true,
upload
too.
half of it for the free, and then put the other half behind a paywall.
That's
there we
a
go.
great idea, EA.
I'm so good.
Oh, nice. Anyway, we would appreciate it if you would follow
Disney
or
shills.
listening to the free version of our show.
Which is the only version.
The only version of our show. Thank you for listening.
We're gonna,
to this.
put
and I'm not throwing
some-
shade at people that have Patreon and have paid
not
episodes
at all.
behind that. That's not what I meant by that.
We
but-
used to.
yeah, I'm not. That's not what I meant. I'm just talking about I don't know.
We just can't feasibly do anything like that, and
I
we don't
think
need
on
to.
our free episodes we should just put a slight ringing in the background, and then the paid version doesn't have that ringing.
There we go. We could do that. That'd be easy to duplicate.
Yeah,
So-
that's twisted.
Just like that sound that only people under 30 can hear, so
Like
we can
some
differentiate
subliminal
our audience. demographic.
Anyway,
Yeah, this has gotten weird.
way off the rails.
We should probably talk about the show. So why don't we stop talking about what we're going to talk about and talk about what we're talking about?
We weren't even talking about what we're going to
Yeah,
talk about.
We were talking about other
all
stuff.
sorts
But
of stuff.
BB Nate,
Yes.
this is your moment.
It is. Black Adam literally changed the hierarchy of the DCU with giving us a few surprises, like how it was actually a very good movie.
I
Let's
thought
talk
so.
all about that.
Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?
Yeah, I can fly.
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
The people in this room, which one is A, wearing a spangly outfit, and B, not of use?
There's only one God, man. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that.
That man has no limits.
So, Liam Hemsworth, don't know if you remember him.
He's from
dropped
Hunger
off
Games.
after Hunger Games because his brother got popular.
Oh, yeah, that'd be like Thor or something.
His brother got popular.
This is not a musical.
But he exists still. So he's going to be Geralt in The Witcher instead of Henry Cavill.
Why? Why is Henry Cavill?
Because Henry Cavill has Superman, and also there's rumors right now that Henry Cavill, who is a huge fan of the books and the games of The Witcher, isn't like the direction they're going with the series, so he wanted to hop off. So,
Interesting.
No, well, that's not a one.
but he likes the direction that Superman's
doesn't
going,
affect us.
saying that he's
Not-
super
not-
excited for a joyous version of Superman.
We're not a part of the Witcher toxic fandom.
No.
So
Never plan on it.
yeah, so the Witcher isn't our show.
Not really.
All right, so why don't we talk about something that is?
Yes. Black Adam.
Yeah,
That's it.
Ratings on a scale from 1 to 10 epic post-credit scenes. I couldn't think of anything else. Oh, wait, no. KFC's Kentucky Fried Chicken. There we go.
It was not Kentucky though. What was it? Kentucky fried chicken.
Clever.
I'm gonna have Shmuley go first. He's only seen it once.
I'll probably just give it an 8. I think a solid 8 is good. I really enjoyed it. It was fun. I probably would be able to follow it a bit better on a second watch, which I haven't had the opportunity to do yet, but I really enjoyed it.
And you're not talking the whole movie?
Huh?
And you're not talking the whole movie? I'm kidding.
Hey.
Kidding.
I had questions.
I know.
So no, I really did enjoy it. It was fun. It felt like a good direction for the DCU to
What is it?
The DCU.
Okay.
To start going. And of course The Rock nailed the role, which I don't think any of us were surprised about. So
I thought it was good. It was funny because you talk about epic post credit scenes. We went, or do we talk about this later in the show?
No, we could talk about it now.
Okay,
I was thinking
we snuck in. We got to the theater.
Yes,
and there was a showing in. We were going in IMAX, which because that's how we do it,
of course,
right? And then there was a non-IMAX showing that was finishing just as we were getting ready.
I
to walk
heard it.
in the
I'm like,
theater.
wait,
You could hear
that sounds like the credit song. So
we snuck into it and finished that episode. We finished the credit scene, the post credit scene, or the end. Was it mid
credit scene?
The mid credit scene. We watched it before we even watched the movie. With it,
it's like eating dessert before you.
And I think it's safe to say that BB Nate, the rumor that you talked about on this show, was pretty freaking accurate.
That was dead on. Yeah,
pretty close. Yeah,
so I'm gonna give it. I'm surprised that you gave it an 8 because that feels like a really high score for anything, any movie.
I mean, it's pretty average. I'd say maybe a little bit above average, but
for you,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to give it an 8,
so
but my 8 is
a much higher weight.
It's got my 8 doesn't feel like an 8.
I feel bad whenever I go to like
feel like?
6.
My 8 feels like this is a really freaking good movie.
It was,
and the second viewing
is even better.
It holds up. The story is strong, and it really, really works. And I was honestly quite surprised,
definitely,
by that. So
yeah, I'll give it an 8 as well. I mean, genuinely happy to walk out of a DC movie and be like, wow, I really enjoyed that.
Well, a DC movie that was in this universe, not like the Batman.
Exactly.
Right.
And I mean, I've walked out of movies in the DCU and been happy before, like Shazam. That was a great movie.
That's true. Yeah.
I've walked out of I don't remember Man of Steel. That was a long time ago.
It was a long
time ago. I didn't see Wonder Woman in theaters. I saw Batman v Superman, and that wasn't good in theaters. Better than the extended cut. So it's just very rare for me to walk out of a DCU movie and be happy with it. And so that was very encouraging. But I want to get y'all's thoughts on this, and then we'll switch into what Black Adam means. Favorite part of Black Adam, character, moment,
it's
something.
It's been a couple weeks since we've seen it now because of life, but
I mean, I guess I'll go first. They nailed kind of what makes a DC universe special is the kind of like the gods just kind of duking it out, for lack of a better term. You play the Injustice games, right? And it's just visceral, like they're moving super fast and it's hard hits and stuff. And like I noticed that from the very first scene where we see Black Adam and he's like taking down those guards or whatever, right? He's just zipping in between them, just doing crazy stuff. I'm like, that's what DC's needed for a while. Definitely. They kind of did that with Man of Steel a little bit, this felt right. And then you've got some other like kind of fan servicey things with Dr. Fate, which was awesome. So they really seem to figure out what works for DC and what the fans want, and they capitalized on it.
Dad?
This is going to sound weird because this is clearly tied to the Shazam story.
It is.
Like with everything that's going on with Black Adam he says Shazam and he looks like anyway. I was Shazam is my favorite of all the DCEU or DCU movies.
Switched it.
I know. And so I was a little concerned that they were just going to sort of throw Black Adam out there and not make any explanations as to how it tied into like the Wizard and all of that. And they didn't. They brought all that in, so it felt connected to Shazam, and I liked that a lot. So
yeah, I like seeing Black Adam killing all the other wizards because that ties into what we hear about in Shazam. It worked very well. I don't know. I have to say my favorite part, and I'm biased. I really liked Dr. Fate.
Yeah,
I always loved Dr. Fate. Yeah. He's so cool. He was
Pierce
great.
Brosnan did great.
Oh my gosh, he it looked like he was born for that role. He did such a good job. And I mean, I was sad that he died. But it's always going to be, we're going to get another character and another version of Dr. Fate. But I really love that character. And I said this before, but this movie really did feel like a Phase 1 MCU movie.
Yeah.
Explain what you mean by that.
It was just fun. I mean, it's been a while since the MCU has just been fun. And like, I laugh. The humor was just good enough to where it didn't feel like they were trying to be clever with the humor or inappropriate. It was just humor, and it worked well.
It wasn't even the Marvel brand of humor.
No, it was still its own thing. And like you said, Sammy, the fights were just brutal, and they hit hard, and they were good fights, and there wasn't a bunch of choreography or flips. It was just beatdowns. It was superheroes being superheroes, which is something that has been a very long time since we've seen that in the MCU, and so it just felt
in the DCU.
Even in the MCU.
I don't think we've ever seen anything like that.
I mean, we saw it in Thor.
Yeah, kind of.
A lot in Thor.
Yeah.
And so, and in some like just big fights with like in Iron Man between him and whatever the big guy's name is. Warmonger. I mean, that end fight is just a bunch of them beating the total living daylight out of each other. And
yeah,
this just felt fun. It's good to see that in the DCU now.
It's going to be hard to learn to say that.
It's going to be so hard. I don't know why it was. I don't even know why it was the EU in the first place, because this is the main universe for DC. Why was it extended universe? But
which is why they changed it, probably.
Right. Let's move into what Black Adam then. And Black Adam seemed to set up a new beginning point for the DCU with Henry Cavill returning as Superman in the mid-credits scene.
Yeah.
So what did y'all think of that scene, and what do you think it means for the DCU?
Well, I mean, it's obviously very, very exciting, just because it's kind of like a beacon of hope for the fans, I think. You know, how long has it been since he's reprised his role? It was ever since
2016.
Right. So that's a huge deal. It's kind of like a sign that they're like, hey, we're listening. We know this is what you want. And it honestly kind of reflects the reason behind bringing back Superman in the Snyder Cut. You know, it was this rallying point, this hope, that they need this to be able to to win, and that's kind of what the DCUs needed. They needed Henry Cavill back as Superman, and that's what we got. And it was cool just to like see him, and it worked well. So yeah, I think it's encouraging.
I think it was. Now, explain to me the significance of the suit that he chose for that end credit scene.
Well, he chose the suit that most closely reflected the design of the first Man of Steel suit, but he wanted the colors to kind of represent the Christopher Reeve Superman, so he chose it to be kind of a mixture of that, so he could don the Man of Steel suit again and show that he's a bit of a different Superman in the way he acts. Like, because Henry Cavill did come out and he's like, I am so excited to play a Superman who's in a more joyful, hopeful part of his life, because he wasn't able to do that. And that's not to say that it was wrong that Zack Snyder made him that way. That's just where he was in that part of his character, because Superman's a super joyful
in the comics he is,
and so we're going to be seeing that side of him now, because that's where he's at. And so he wanted to show that and reflect that in what he was doing, which that's why it was a huge deal for him to choose that.
I think it was such a exciting moment, and yeah, we were spoiled completely on the
well, I mean, it was one of the worst kept secrets.
It really was. Well, we joked
there
about that. It was the complete opposite of Andrew Garfield.
Right. We're on the way up. We talked about that.
Watch it.
It's like, no, we swear he's in it.
No, seriously. And by the way, did I tell you Superman's in this? Because Superman is in this, and you need to show up because Superman's in there. And so come to the movie. And if you don't even know who Black Adam is, just come and stay to the end because Superman is in it with it. But yeah, it was fun. And what it tells me is that some of the speculation that we have had on this show as Warner Brothers and Discovery and all the uproar that's gone on over the last several months through that, I feel like we were pretty dead on as to what we were saying. This is actually what's happening with this, and so I feel like that's exciting, because if it does play out like that going forward, then this could be a really exciting time for DC fans. I'm excited for you, BB Nate.
It's a very exciting time. So just a few days after Black Adam released, it was announced that James Gunn and Peter Safran, I think I got that right, are going to be the heads of DC Studios, which is confirmed to be the name now, from now on. So what do y'all think of this decision? Could it hurt DC or only make it better?
I'm not sure who Peter Safran is.
He produced the Shazam movies. He also worked on the Conjuring movies, and he's worked on a few of the other movies. So I don't remember what other movies he worked on, but
it's encouraging because both of these people have superhero movies under their belts, and successful ones at that. What worries me is, at least with James Gunn, they're very comedic and they're very Marvel comedy.
Well,
and there's not a problem.
Suicide Squad was not Marvel comedy.
Okay, that's true.
Peacemaker was not Marvel comedy.
I just don't want them to go too far into either the Marvel comedy territory or too far into what the Suicide Squad was, and Peacemaker, and where it's just kind of a slog to even try and watch.
I agree with the concern, and I think that I would feel much more of that concern if Peter Safran wasn't a part of this. And yes, Peter Safran, I mean, Conjuring is dark and all of that, but he understands how to tell a DC superhero story that is completely family friendly.
That's
true.
He
did that with Shazam. He's doing that with the Fury of the Gods as well. We're going down that. So you've got James Gunn, who can do the Suicide Squad, Peacemaker type stuff, and I think loves DC, and I think he's going to respect the property the right way. But I also know you've got someone else that can speak into things that can be like,
it's kind of like a yin-yang thing.
Remember the Shazam fans, remember that side of things, and make sure that they go forward, because I've got, we said it on the show when Suicide Squad came out. I didn't like it. I didn't like the way that it was just more than I cared for. I didn't like Harley Quinn with that, so I don't want to. We didn't watch Peacemaker because it's pretty vulgar from what I understand. So I don't want DC to just completely go down that trail, but I think the Peter Safran thing tells me that that's not going.
And what the big deal of that is, because I just checked, Peter Safran was producer of Aquaman and Shazam.
Okay,
both pretty family friendly movies.
Yeah.
But he also produced Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, so he knows how to do both sides of the coin if he needs to. And the thing is in the comics and in everything that we deal with, Suicide Squad, it's pretty rare to get a family-friendly Suicide Squad comic. It's rare to get.
So understand the property.
Exactly.
Understand Suicide Squad is this, Peacemaker is this, but Shazam is this, Superman needs to be this, the Batman
needs
stuff
to be this,
needs to be this, Wonder Woman needs to be.
So Peter Safran
let it be
understands
that.
He was allowing Peacemaker and Suicide Squad to be what they needed to be,
right.
But he also made sure that Shazam and Aquaman were where they are and where they belong,
and that makes me excited. And and just like we've kind of hoped we could see happen in the Star Wars space, we've seen it happen in the MCU. The idea of having, now we know who these people are, there's someone that's in charge of the DC universe, they're going to be making these decisions. We've got Henry Cavill back, we know Ben Affleck is back, we know Jason Momoa is back, we know Gal Gadot is back. We know these main characters are back. We hope that Ezra Miller can work through the stuff that Ezra Miller needs to work through and continue forward with it. I feel like now the players are all, identified. Now we can move forward with the DC universe.
And it's not to say that James Gunn can't make a family-friendly superhero movie.
Guardians of the Galaxy is,
it's some of the best.
It can get a little bit on the edge, but it's nowhere close to anything Suicide Squad.
It's what the Guardians of the Galaxy are, and they're pretty fun, not super inappropriate. They're good. They're still fun. So I'm not worried about that. Right. But now that Black Adam is over and that part of DC is behind us, what would y'all like to see from DC going forwards?
I want to see DC differentiate itself from the MCU, which I think it's doing. I just want them to continue going down that route. Have its own style of humor. Have it be a bit darker and heavier. Not, Suicide Squad, but, a bit darker. That's just what DC
like
is.
Man of Steel.
Right.
Like the Snyder Cut. Yeah.
Have it be that. That works well for it. I want to see more of that. I want to see the characters that, represent DC, the just unbelievably strong, titans that DC is known for. So, I think that's the route that they're going to be going down. So I have a lot of hope for DC going forwards.
I don't want to see DC's version of the MCU.
Right.
I do want to see the characters be true to who the characters are in the 100 years in some cases of characters.
Yeah, almost 100 years for Batman right now.
That's crazy.
That type of thing. I want these characters to be, to reflect what we expect from them, and the stories to do that. And that allows, and I even heard, Dwayne Johnson talking about this, we're not trying to be in the MCU with this. Let it be what it needs to be and let it go forward. And hopefully they can just keep a coherent story, and the studio can stay out of the storytelling side of it and just reap the benefits of a property that can make them a lot of money if they just stop messing it up.
Yeah, give the fans what they want. That it's been shown that that's what works.
Exactly.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
Well, Shazam! Fury of the Gods is next up to bat for DC, and I know we are all super excited for that.
Yep.
Just kind of sad we have to wait so long.
Yeah. I'm super excited.
A long wait.
Why? When did we start? Like, we're not the only ones that do that, but when did the phrase "super excited" become so common? Like, it's like, I hear it like 1,000 times a day. We say it. Everybody else, I was on a meeting today with somebody and they were said it 6 times. Super excited. Super excited.
Just
saying
it's
that.
Common.
Anyway.
You're overthinking. You need to Google that and it'll show you the chart of usage. Have you seen
really?
that?
I've never seen that.
Yeah, you can look up definitions of words and apparently was it tomfoolery is back on the rise.
Ah, nice.
Yeah.
I want to bring back hogwash and balderdash. All right.
Balderdash?
Balderdash.
What's that mean?
We'll talk about it another time. All right. Not that it's a bad word, but it's for
kind of sounds like it could be.
No, it's not. It's like poppycock. But not the sugary popcorny treat.
There's a treat called poppycock?
Oh, it's so good. All right. Anyway, so the last episode, which was a couple weeks ago, right? The Suns were split on is it canon. We're going to see if that'll happen again.
This is not going to go the way you think.
All right, here's how the segment works. I give a description of something I found after clicking the random article button on Wikipedia. And once again, first click. Didn't have to go through. Didn't get Leia Organa or something like that. That would have been like, well, I think we know the answer. Okay. These guys make an argument for whether or not they think it's canon or legends and why. Okay. Are we guys ready?
Ready.
The Umbarans.
That sounds super familiar.
They're also known as the Shadow People. They're a near-human species native to the planet of Umbara.
Whoa.
They were characterized by their pale bluish skin and colorless eyes. In the waning decades of the Galactic Republic, the Umbarans were represented in the Pangalactic Senate by Medici. However, after Dici's murder by senatorial aide Lolo Pers during the Clone Wars, they joined the Confederacy of Independent Systems, bringing their extremely advanced technology to the enemies of the Republic.
Umbaran. That sounds
It does sound
so
very
familiar. Like, really familiar. I just can't place where I've
Like, I
heard
feel like
that.
it was in Clone Wars. Like,
That's what I think. Like, as soon as we're done with the segment and we confirm whether it's one way or another, I'm going to look up what they look like because it sounds
like
so familiar.
I could have sworn that there was like an arc in Clone Wars that dealt with
That's what I'm thinking. I even have an arc in mind. I
Right,
just don't
same
know
here.
if it's the right one.
Exactly. So I'm going to say canon.
I'm going to go
'Cause I feel
canon
like this
too.
was Clone Wars.
I agree.
Wow. This is pretty confident on you guys.
It just sounds way too familiar.
Well, it was their first appearance was in Attack of the Clones. The most
Okay.
famous of them was Sly Moore, but you guys need to know there was a whole arc in Clone Wars, and they're massively involved in the High Republic.
Really?
Right now. So Sly Moore, also known as the Umbaran, was an Umbaran female force adept with the ability to manipulate the minds of others, and Moore served as the senior administrative aide and chief of staff of Supreme Chancellor Sheev Palpatine during the final years of the Galactic Republic. Moore was one of the few people who knew of Palpatine's true identity as the Sith Lord Darth Sidious, and she stood by Chancellor's side along with Vice Chair Mas Ameda when the former ended the Clone Wars, declared a proclamation of the New Order, anointing himself the title of the Galactic Emperor.
So good.
But there was also a lot of Legends content about the
I'm sure.
Umbarans as well.
There's always Legends content
it's
about
both.
something.
You
It was
would have
kind of
been
a
right
one
either
way or another, yeah.
It would have been.
But they were introduced in something canon.
Yeah, and
Interesting.
it still remains canon. So
Very cool.
that was a good one. Sly Moore's an interesting character. I always can't. Every time I see Sly Moore, I think of the main female character in Star Trek: The Motion Picture, which is a terrible movie.
I haven't seen it.
But
So
I just for some reason think
You should
of
watch
her.
the director's cut at some point.
No, I don't want to watch any more of
think
that.
so.
That's probably the reason I'm a Star Wars fan.
Is that
today.
the one about the whales?
No, that's considered one of the best movies of all time.
That's a joke, right?
No, I'm not
This
joking.
isn't
All right.
like a express.co.uk
No, this
listing?
is legit. So people
okay.
of all the Star Trek movies, people love that one almost the most.
As much as Wrath of
okay.
Khan.
Pretty close, yeah.
Wow.
All right.
As much as Into Darkness.
Well, Tales of the Jedi is here after what felt like forever. We knew after we saw the first episode of Celebration that would be good, but that Dooku arc was incredible. We'll do a quick reaction and talk about some important points.
Be on your guard. There are older and fouler things than orcs in the deep places of the world.
All right, then, keep your secrets.
You're coming to us. Is as the footsteps of do's.
There are many magic rings in this world, Bilbo Baggins, and none of them should be used lightly.
Style is kind of like a mix right in between Rebels and Clone Wars.
I didn't notice it as much with like Ahsoka, but Dooku made it really clear.
Yeah,
definitely.
So yeah,
I thought that was a cool little touch because it wasn't technically Clone Wars, it wasn't Rebels.
Otherwise, everybody would just be calling this another sequel to the
Clone Wars season.
Clone Wars season 7.5 or
Right,
something like
yeah,
that. So
yeah, it's like
even though
Lion
it
King
wouldn't
one
work,
and a-
it was definitely not the same as the Clone Wars.
No, not by any means. But before we get into it too much, I want to get y'all's rating of the series on a scale of 1 to 10 emotionally scarring backstories. Nate, you go first.
Yeah, I'm going to give this an 8. I mean, I had no complaints about it. It was fun still, and it still had great Star Wars content, and Ahsoka was as good as ever. Dooku's arc was fun to see, especially if you listened to Jedi Lost. There was some points in there that you're like, okay, we're even building more on Dooku, so that's always fun to see. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it was good. Nothing really to complain about.
Yeah, I'm going to give it an 8. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. My only sort of, it's not even a complaint, so that word feels too harsh. Yeah, too harsh. Is that it does feel like, well, it veered away from some of the things that are in the novels and those stories.
We'll talk about that.
And so that in itself makes me, it's harder when it helps me relate to people that are super fans of the Legends content, because then they see things that are like, that just doesn't work. I loved this story and now it's a little different now and it doesn't work the same, and so you have to process it differently. The Ahsoka novel was probably the biggest deviation, but there was a little bit still from Dooku Jedi Lost. It kind of it felt like it a little bit.
Yeah.
So
I'll give it like a 7.5 ish. I don't know if maybe
negative.
I was
Man, you're so negative.
I know.
Just be quiet, IGN.
Maybe I was just tired, still waking up or something, or grumpy that day. But I don't think I get into the Clone Wars stuff as much. I mean, it's interesting, it's cool, but for me, like, if they did something like this for Rebels, I'd be way more invested. I mean, I still liked it. I still thought it was interesting.
Like Kanan's story before he meets Hera or something like that.
Yeah, like, it was still interesting to see more stories about Ahsoka, but we've gotten a lot of Ahsoka. Dooku was cool because we didn't get a lot of that.
Ahsoka, like, before we see her in season 2 of Rebels. You'd have been okay with that?
Maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's not as emotionally impactful, I guess.
Caleb Doom was in this
for like 2 seconds, and that was very exciting. Mm-hmm. But that's about it, for Rebels things. But anyway, let's kind of talk about Ahsoka's arc, I guess, in this. It threw me a little off guard when it was 1 episode of Ahsoka and then 3 episodes of Dooku and then 2 episodes of Ahsoka.
Well, that's just because of the timeline.
And it took me a minute to realize that, but they were going in timeline order, so it makes sense now. But we had the 3 episodes.
Which, let's just be honest, that's a little unusual for Star Wars.
What, to do things
to actually do things in a chronological order.
I know, especially for like Clone Wars style thing. So. Like, what's going on here? I thought maybe it was out of order, but no, it wasn't. So we had the 3 episodes. First one we had seen at Celebration a few months ago, so that was still cool to watch that again, kind of get a refresher. But then we had Practice Makes Perfect, which hit a little too hard there at the end.
Whole episode.
And then Resolve, which was kind of the one that I was most interested for her arc, because we knew that there was going to be the Inquisitor. It was going to be based on the Ahsoka novel, but Nate, you really liked the Ahsoka novel. Mm-hmm. We both read it, but you really enjoyed it. This episode was a bit different from the novel in some ways.
Yeah, explain some of the differences, and then
Nate, just talk about that.
The story, Ahsoka was more accustomed to people on the planet that she was on than she was in this episode. I mean, she knew the people a lot more. She was friends with them. She was pretty closed off at first. She was, but she connected with them a lot of the people. Mm-hmm. And eventually that's what made the Inquisitor so that came so impactful, is he was brutal. Like, very brutal for Star Wars to those people, and so that's what made it hit harder. And then Ahsoka, the battle was very different between her and the Inquisitor. She used the Force to explode his lightsaber, and then grabbed the crystals and healed them to the point where they turned white, because
that's where she gets her new sabers.
Yeah, healed crystals from Sith are still cracked, so they're white. It's very different, but it's still, I feel like this episode, I didn't mind it, because they already, in the Clone Wars stuff, differentiated that from the novel. I mean, the Siege of Mandalore arc was different than what we got in the Ahsoka novel. Mm. And so they've kind of put the Ahsoka novel away and said this is a different telling, which I'm disappointed about, but I'm not going to freak out about it. Because, I mean, these are movies.
Can we do a change.org?
Yeah, right. Not my
Ahsoka.
Yeah, really, what would you call it?
I didn't mind this. Mm-hmm. It was still good. It still felt right. I mean, you can differentiate from the books and feel off, but this one still felt right. And even her battle against the Inquisitor just showed how absolutely powerful and how she is undeniably one of the most powerful Jedi to exist. And it felt so much like the Twin Sons battle.
It did. It
so
felt like
many ways.
Very similar.
Because it was like 2 seconds is how long the battle lasted. And she didn't even have a lightsaber, which is crazy. It felt like that. And I know people complained that it was too short. The battle was too short. And the Inquisitor.
Well, what were you going to do?
Too long, too little. And we saw too little of the Inquisitor. And
that's kind of where I was. I mean, I wouldn't want like a full on battle of the heroes moment in episode 3, but a little bit more would have been cool, especially because we got such a cool looking character design for that Inquisitor.
Maybe we'll get more.
Well, maybe, but I mean, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more about that. One thing I really liked about the Ahsoka novel, it's really kind of one of the only things I remember, is how she grabbed the saber and she like exploded it using, like disassembled it using the Force, and then healed the crystals, and that's how she got her crystals for her later sabers. I kind of would have liked them at least just touch on maybe her finding the crystals afterwards and healing them, or something to show where she gets those later on. Not a huge deal, obviously. Again, I'm not going to be all up in arms about it, but it would have been a nice touch that they could have used from the Ahsoka novel.
Fire Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah, no, she's horrible. She needs to be fired. Dave too, because he's dead to me now.
Maybe it's because I'm not on Twitter.
This is all a joke. We still would love to interview Dave.
I haven't seen many people complaining about this not following the Ahsoka novel.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot on Facebook, and I haven't been on Twitter much.
I don't know why people aren't complaining about it. Like,
well, because it's uncharacteristic for Star Wars fans.
They did, though, when it originally leaked out that this is what was going to be the case.
I understand, but that doesn't change anything. Star Wars fans will still complain about something every chance they get.
Well, that's, again, I haven't seen it a ton. I guess everybody's too busy complaining about Rings of Power to talk about Star Wars. So, you guys kind of talked about it, then moved to the next episode. But the second episode was for me the most powerful of the Ahsoka arc.
Definitely.
And watching her being trained on how to defend herself against the clones by Anakin over and over, and Rex, being the one to bring the attack against her, and all of this, watching that, and then going into a Siege of Mandalore arc, if you were to watch those together, like a supercut type thing,
right?
With it, would be really, really intense. With it, that moment when the doors open and she's, they're the 501st is standing there getting ready to take her into captivity or kill her.
Yeah, kill her.
With it, it's like, obviously Anakin had no idea that this is where things were going. He wasn't preparing her for it. With it,
but the Force was.
The Force was. It's like all of this preparation that she was going through was actually got her completely at the spot where she needed to be going into that moment. And so that was really a really emotional moment.
When they started with that episode and started kind of with that training, I was like, I hope they somehow link this to what happened in Order 66. Yes. I wasn't expecting them to link it so overtly like that, but hey, it was cool. They did it.
It was really good.
And then there was the Dooku stuff, which I think we were all the most excited for, just because we haven't gotten a lot of young Dooku. I think we've gotten Dooku Jedi Lost, and that's about it. So, again, there were 3 episodes. You had Justice, where Dooku and Qui-Gon were sent to capture a senator, or get back a senator's captured son. Choices, which had Dooku and Mace investigate this death of a Jedi, and then the Sith Lord, which kind of showed Dooku's eventual full-on giving into the dark side things. So, overall, what did you guys think about the arc that we got for Dooku in this series?
I really liked it. Also, Yaddle's awesome.
Yaddle was awesome.
The 40 seconds we saw her, but she was awesome.
Although now I need an explanation as to why Yoda is the one who talks weird.
I'm sure
maybe it's like only the males of the species or something.
Maybe it's just how he likes to talk.
All right.
I mean, Yoda.
When you're 900 years old, you can talk however you want.
Well, yeah, it kind of sounds like something he would say, doesn't it?
Yeah,
talk however you want, you will. So anyway,
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was really great. Anyway. Seeing Liam Neeson's son voice young Qui-Gon was awesome.
It was more of hearing him voice it. rather than seeing it.
Smart aleck.
Yeah.
But it was awesome to see, and it's just.
You good, Dad?
Okay, Dad, you can go ahead.
No, it's okay.
Since you obviously want to talk.
I'm sorry.
Go
No.
No, go ahead.
Sorry. I apologize. I yield the floor to you, sir.
I'm done. I was just saying it was a very great arc. I loved seeing Dooku go through this kind of these trials of seeing how corrupt the Jedi even and the Senate are, and the world is, the galaxy is. And so it was great to see, because you kind of, Dooku is one of those Sith that you understand he's not trying to be a bad guy. He just genuinely wants to bring peace, but he's doing it the wrong way.
Yeah, I agree with that. I liked this arc a lot. This is the kind of stuff that I really wanted to come, to see in this series. That's what I was coming for. I loved the idea that we got to see Dooku and Qui-Gon in that master Padawan or a relationship with that, and that was really an interesting moment. When, if you haven't seen it, I apologize, you should go watch it. Pause this, go watch it, then come back. When he is basically, he's force choking the senator, that galactic senator, the Republic senator, and Qui-Gon comes in and sort of pulls him out of that. That's a pretty powerful and emotional.
It was pretty emotional when he found out that Qui-Gon died. That was crazy.
Where he met Yoda.
That was intense. I loved seeing the relationship between Mace and Dooku, but I did say, I mean, the ending of that episode, there was like some real jealousy there from Dooku. So you see that dark side stuff.
Oh, maybe I'm confusing this with I think I'm confusing this with Qui-Gon. But like, I thought he was offered the position and declined it.
That's Qui-Gon.
That was Qui-Gon. Okay. I thought I was getting that confused with something. Maybe I'm just like, I'm missing something, but doesn't the series sort of conflict with Dooku Jedi Lost a little bit?
Oh, I think it does.
Okay.
I do. I think that the ending of Dooku Jedi Lost, he goes back to, where's his planet? Serrano?
Serrano, yes.
He goes back to Serrano and he, rescues his sister and he defeats his corrupt brother, and the Republic has failed.
A giant fight with that dragon.
Exactly.
It's an awesome book title.
It was an awesome book. The Republic, fails to come to their aid, but then wants to because they find there's resources now. And so, I mean, the corruption there is
still present.
Is there with it. He walks away from the Jedi Order there.
And
then we see him now at the Jedi Temple doing all the cool stuff from Attack of the Clones, changing that and battling against that. And then the epilogue of the Dooku Jedi Lost is it feels different than what we get in this. I don't know. It felt off. I'm sure that there's some smarter people that can reconcile all of that in the timeline, but it doesn't make sense to me.
Don't we kind of understand when he walks Serrano, when all that takes place? He's already with the Jedi Order for a while. He has connections with Mace and Yoda and all that stuff. And then does he leave the Jedi Order at that moment? I can't remember.
Yeah, that's what he says. He's not coming back. He's walking away from the Jedi Order. He leaves in that moment.
So the thing is
the only person that knows that Dooku left the Jedi Order or is becoming a Sith in Tales of the Jedi was Yaddle.
Right, so he could have been playing a double agent.
Still been a double agent for a while, and then that point he's like, okay, this is enough. I'm going to fully join the Sith. But it kind of cheapens
it, I feel like.
Well, this is the problem. When you put, let's just have a moment here.
Some transparency
with Star Wars. We love all the content that we're getting out.
Absolutely.
But the problem is when you have so much content coming out that you don't have a master plan.
Yeah.
You don't have a master plan for what's going to happen with that content. Then you start getting to this, what's the hierarchy, right? So films, TV.
But do we know if these tales are canon?
Yes, absolutely.
Was that
100%.
confirmed?
Why wouldn't it be?
Because all we knew from the panel was Dave himself said, all these stories were just stories that I wrote and wanted to tell on the flights to and from the set of Mandalorian.
Right.
He's like, I wrote these and then I submitted them, and they're like, yeah, let's make a series of these. So we don't even know if these are technically canon or if these are just tales of the Jedi, because Legends of Luke Skywalker is not canon, because those are just tales of Luke Skywalker. But that's a novel that came out.
This is the challenge that Star Wars has right now and is going to continue to have going forward. Is it canon? Is it not? I know that that's not a conversation that a lot of people want to have, but when you start having these conflicts and what ranks, with canon and all of these types of things, I mean, we're fortunate that our little moment of changing Star Wars canon is so insignificant with Turbis
that it won't be changed.
That nothing will ever change that with it, but then you've got authors like,
Kevin Scott,
but then the one that wrote Ahsoka, I can't remember what
E.K. Johnson.
E.K. Johnson, yeah. You got these authors that pour their blood, sweat, and tears and their energy into these things, and then these things get changed,
rolled over.
I feel bad for them.
But it's the same thing that happened with Legends.
Absolutely, but you were hired by Disney in the new canon era to write these stories with the understanding that these stories were part of the story. And so now they've gotten that changed. And so I'm not, it's not a toxic thing. It's just more of, I feel uneasy.
Yeah.
I feel uncomfortable with that.
I get that. But right now, I think what we need to think of is just judging by how these were and how they were set up and how they felt. I'm personally going to consider them as kind of a Legends material.
Well, they need to make that clear. I guess I kind of didn't do that with Visions. They didn't really state
they
that they weren't
state
canon,
that those were canon.
But it was pretty dang well accepted that they weren't.
I mean, these just feel like little stories that could have been fabricated through a bunch of myths and stories from the galaxy that.
But they weren't set up like that with Legends of Luke Skywalker. It was clear that these were stories being told of the characters, so therefore they're going to get blown out of proportion.
But these are tales of the Jedi.
But that's never expressed as a folklore or anything. Nobody's telling us these stories. If there was some sort of narrator from some weird backwater planet who heard these legends of Ahsoka and Dooku and was telling some stories he heard, it'd be very different. Then you could be like, oh, well, they are just stories. But those were presented much like a Rebels episode or a Clone Wars episode or a Bad Batch episode. I mean, they were just pretty cut and dry. They opened and they closed, and there was nothing in there to give any indication that they could be fabricated in some way. So I get your point too, but if that is the case, they need to make that a little bit more clear for us as viewers.
I agree.
Again, these are small nitpicks, not a huge
No, we got
deal.
new Star Wars content this week.
Great new Star Wars content.
Yeah, I loved it. Great stories, all of that. I just, I feel like now I want to go and I want to watch some Star Wars Explained videos where I know Alex is going to walk through and explain these things. I didn't want to watch those before we had a chance to talk about it, because then I would be like the guy with the pushing up his glasses.
Actually,
this is what happened. That kind of thing.
Right.
I didn't want to do that. Same thing with I could listen to some Force Center podcast. Where Ken Knapsack and Joseph Scrimshaw are going to end up having these conversations, and they're going to do it in a really healthy way. I hope that everyone, all of you that are out there listening, understand that we loved these episodes, and these are you called them a nitpick. I mean, it's a little more than
we love Star Wars.
It's not. It's a little more than a nitpick. It's more of like, okay, where are we at with these things, and how does this fit in? But we're not doing it from a, oh my gosh, Star Wars is a joke.
No,
and
it's
they don't know what they're doing.
Because we love Star Wars and we've consumed the other stuff that we want to make sure we understand where it all fits in the larger story.
And that's a big difference between the pre-Disney era stuff being rendered Legends and this. When that happened, you didn't have to like it, but you at least knew
where it stood.
I feel like the one thing Star Wars needs as of now is direction.
Yeah.
Where is Star Wars going? Are we just in this limbo of making content throughout?
And they have that with the High Republic, and it's thriving.
It is
in the writing space.
But we don't read books
and the comics, but we're not into it as much.
No. So I mean, that's doing great. That's awesome. But I mean, we're getting Acolyte, which is set in the High Republic. Are we just going to be in this limbo of making content is set in different periods, and then that's just it? Like, is that what Star Wars is doing now? Or are we going to have like a set storyline?
Like the films.
I mean, we have the Mandoverse right now, which is setting up its own stuff. Book of Boba Fett, Mandalorian, Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew, and all that. But that's
I'm
really
excited
it.
about Skeleton Crew.
I'm excited about Skeleton Crew as well. But I mean, we just need direction.
I agree.
All right.
Yeah. Now, we talked about this a little bit before on the podcast, but I think we've drawn the parallels between Ahsoka and Dooku's journeys as Jedi. You know, they both start off very excited in the Jedi Order, but they start to see some of the corruption in the Senate and the way the Jedi handle things, and they end up leaving the Order because of it. Granted, they go very different ways at the end of it. They handle it very differently. To you guys, did this series kind of change the way you'd see that or back it up any?
No, I'd say it would back it up. I mean, it just showed how easily corruptible the Jedi can be if they aren't fully bought in, and if they aren't fully Jedi, if they aren't light side.
Yeah, if they're told what to do by the Senate.
Ahsoka is 100% a Jedi. She is a light side Force user. I'm not going to say Jedi because then later on she doesn't associate herself with the Jedi. She's a light side user. But Dooku's always been a very cut and dry Republic era Jedi. He has busts of himself. He became a Sith Lord and he had a bust made out of him and put in the library. I mean,
because he was such an influential.
But Ahsoka, who was influential as well in the Republic era, she left the Jedi Order after she was framed, and the Jedi wanted nothing to do with her. But she still was all bought into the light. And so it just showed how there are different types of Jedi and how Ahsoka is a true one, but Dooku just lost his way and became corrupted by the dark side and Sidious, which Sidious could never do that to Ahsoka or even Ezra.
Yeah, I think that we've talked about this from the Jedi, code and creed and idea and ideology being sort of the religion of Star Wars. And so you've got both Dooku and Ahsoka seeing the dirty behind the scenes of this religion, this faith, and the corruption within it. And one of them walks away from that and becomes in Obi-Wan's language, the very thing he swore to destroy. And then you've got Ahsoka walking away from it. She walks away from this organized group and continues to be, as we said in our episode we did a few years ago about Ahsoka completely, where we called her the greatest Jedi.
She is,
the most true Jedi
to the Jedi religion.
Yeah. She didn't have to be part of the Jedi Order. She didn't have to be official. She was walking the Jedi way in every way, shape, or form. And I think that that's an interesting, parallel to
Dave Filoni's a genius, and he created that character. Oh,
that's why he tries to throw her in almost any story he can.
He really does.
I'm surprised she's not showing up in Bad Batch yet. One quick little question before we move on, but if Filoni decided to do another series similar to this, what characters would you like it to explore?
I already said it once.
Yeah, Kanan for sure.
I want to see Kanan. I'd love to see Kanan after the moment on the Bad Batch. Yep. I'd love to see that story from there to
meeting
Hera, because we've got that story already written, and I want that story to stay canon
that way.
Okay, so
what, A New Dawn?
Yeah, exactly. It's a great story. If you haven't read it and you want to read a book, read it. I want the story of him doing that, and I want to watch him fighting the pull to be a Jedi.
Oh, but wait, you gotta wonder, will it follow the Kanan comics?
Oh,
I didn't read the comics, so
they're good. You should read them. But they were really good.
Do you have another one? Do you have anybody else?
I'm trying to think Rebels era, because I want to see more.
Well, yeah,
more Rebels era, but there wasn't many Jedi in the Rebels era, which is sad.
Yeah,
I mean, we got Ahsoka, and we're not going to get another Ahsoka arc. And Ezra, we saw his entire Jedi journey until he disappeared, which we're going to be seeing.
Would it be kind of cool if we saw some Plo Koon stuff?
I wouldn't mind Plo Koon,
because we don't have much of his character, and Filoni seems to be fairly fond of that Jedi as well.
Kiara-Mundi and his
take one of the yeah, where did that come from?
Yeah, that would be fun.
So they could definitely continue this with a lot of characters.
Yeah, I think it would
make it interesting. But there's yet another great animated series under Filoni's belt. Hopefully, we see
just a great series in general. Yeah.
Hopefully, we see more like this from him in the future. Now all we can do is wait until January for Bad Batch season 2.
Let's go. All right,
with Ahsoka.
Both of you. I didn't say it at the end of
Probably.
your segment, but good. Both of you. Good segments today, guys.
Thank you.
Yes, good
Seriously,
segment, Sam.
it was good. All right, let's talk a little bit about some movies. There aren't really any blockbuster films releasing this weekend, but there's one that looks very important. That's next on Movie Moments.
At last we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last we will have revenge.
So, Armageddon Time. One new release only, and it's about a deeply personal coming-of-age story about the strength of a family and the generational pursuit of the American
Let's just stop right there. That is the most tame, non-telling you what this movie is about.
Yeah, I didn't even watch the trailer, and that doesn't give me anything.
Why would you call something Armageddon Time and then all of that? No, it's some heavy content with it. It's like 1980s. I think it's in New York, and Anthony Hopkins plays someone who survived.
Anthony Hopkins?
Hannibal
Lecter. Odin.
Okay. Yeah, I know who you're talking about now.
You know what we're talking about now?
Yep.
Okay. He portrays someone who survived the Holocaust and he's moved to the United States, and now he's, his family is, living their normal life, his kids, and then his grandson befriends an African-American boy and then gets in trouble at school, and his parents freak out, and there's this racial element with it, and Anthony Hopkins basically is like telling his grandson, stand up for your friend and stuff. And
yikes.
It looks intense with it. It's one of those that you're never going to see it get more than a few $1 million in the box office, but it's one of those
one that gets all the Oscars.
People need to see this movie.
Yeah.
It looks like it's really, really good. So, and it's got some strong people in it.
The director is James Gray. The cast is Sir Anthony Hopkins, Anne Hathaway, Jeremy Strong, and Banks Rapeta. Something like that. Studio is Focus Features. It is rated R for language and some drug use involving minors. Going yes or no?
I mean, I don't know when we're going to have time. It's a busy world right now that we're in right now.
I got to go launch rockets this Saturday.
Are you doing that this Saturday?
This
Where's
Saturday. Samson.
Nice.
So that's like what, 3 hours away?
Yeah, 2.5, 3 hours in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. So I forgot all about you were doing that. So we're super busy. So
we'll find time.
Absolutely.
For trailers this week, not much. Just a Netflix release, The Pale Blue Eye.
Yeah, I brought that in because that's an interesting,
very interesting storyline. Looks good.
It has Christian Bale.
It does have Christian Bale as the main character, and it's dealing with Christian Bale's a detective, kind of trying to solve a murder in a military
academy.
Place. A cadet was murdered, and so he just keeps asking the cadets questions, but due to like their code,
so it's kind of like silent. A Few Good Men.
Kind of.
Is that the one I'm thinking of?
Yeah.
But eventually the cadets stay silent, so he enlists the help of who would be known as Edgar Allan Poe to help him figure out the
who's
murder.
His assistant, right? He's young and he's not. It's before he's a writer and all this stuff. It looks really interesting.
It does.
It looks dark though.
Well, it's Edgar Allan Poe. Throw him in anything, it's going to be dark.
It's going to be dark, yes. For box office results, Black Adam ran away with it again. Not surprising. 27 million domestic. Not terrible still for a second weekend. Crossed 250 million worldwide, which it actually crossed 100 million in the U.S., which is almost about as much as it was expected to make in its entire run in the U.S.
That's pretty good.
So it's going to be making a lot more than anticipated. Ticket to Paradise, 10 million domestic, and Pray for the Devil, 7 million.
Don't do that.
Yikes.
Not interested.
First weekend, third place. That's it.
Well, it's a horror movie,
but you'd still think it would win over Ticket to Paradise in its second weekend.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay. All right.
So, yikes.
Yeah, good deal.
Yeah.
Thanks. All right. Well, so much of the Disney era of Star Wars has been about showing us different perspectives of who the Empire and the Rebellion are. But one thing Andor is making no apologies for is this: the Empire is bad, really bad.
Bulky religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster at your side, kid.
Rebellions are built on hope.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
If you live long enough, you see the same eyes in different people.
The coolest thing about this this is we're 8 episodes in, which is usually when we're done.
Yeah.
With a Star Wars series.
4 more episodes.
And we still got 4 more
Let's
episodes.
go.
Yes.
With this, which is pretty exciting.
And it's only getting better.
Yeah. And
like it was slow in the beginning, and now you're getting to like the points where like, oh my gosh, it's so good.
It's like Novocaine. Give it enough time, it'll work. Right. So it's and I have a feeling it's going to get even better.
I have a feeling too.
With that, episode 6 of Andor focused on the fallout from the Aldhani incident. But the one thing that might be the most interesting from that episode was Cassian's return to Ferrix, and Marva, his adopted mother's refusal to leave with him. Marva's reason, she's very much got conviction behind not wanting to go and do this, and it's all about the rebellion, which seems the exact opposite of who Cassian is at this point in the story. Sam, why do you think Marva wants to stay on Ferrix rather than leave with Cassian?
Well, it's probably like a sense of duty at this point. Like she stayed there for so long, kind of in hiding and trying to do what she can. It feels like leaving, even if she's leaving, for a good cause, I guess, it would feel like quitting and abandonment to her. So I feel like she's just got the sense of duty that she has to stay and finish it, see it through to the end at this point.
Yeah, I feel like her rebellion started on this planet, and she's always wanted to make it free from the Empire, and so she's going to see that through to the end and not just leave and abandon her mission. So she's gonna, like what Sam said, it's a sense of duty to the planet, because that's her mission. It's always been her mission.
I think it's more than duty to the planet too. She lost Clem, her husband, on this planet, and I think that she feels an obligation to see through this rebellion in his honor. And it's funny because if you recall, not funny, it's actually pretty poignant and hard to think about. But she wants to stay because this is where Clem was murdered by the Empire, and she wants to stand with him. Cassian wants to leave because every time he goes down that street, he sees in his mind his adopted father, Clem, being killed. In the square when he was there, and we see this moment in a flashback with it. It's a really hard story, even just kind of getting into that. Let's talk a little bit about Dedra, because obviously we're talking about 2 episodes here since we didn't get to do an episode of our podcast last week, so we're dealing with episodes 7 and 8 with it. Let's talk a little bit about Dedra. When we were first introduced to her, I speculated that she could be actually a rebel plant inside of the ISB. I think it's safe to say that I was wrong about that.
I think so.
She's as full of loyalty to the Empire as Marva is to the rebellion. With this, Nate, this leads us kind of back to a question that we asked in earlier conversations. Is Dedra out to advance her own career, or is she about something bigger?
I think it's about both. I mean, I feel like she's trying to advance her career so she has a more powerful position in the Empire to accomplish something,
to do more with the Empire.
Yeah. To be more evil, because that just seems like who she is. And it feels like if she reaches the point that her superior officers are at, then she can order everybody else around to do these horrible things.
Right.
So I very much think that it's a bit of both.
What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, she is fully bought in. I don't think there's really a lot of selfishness in her. If there is any selfishness, it's selfishness with the Empire in mind. I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but kind of, again, I'm just kind of echoing what Nathan said. She wants to better herself so she can better the Empire. Like, everything she does is about squashing this rebellion because she fully believes that the Empire brings peace somehow. I don't know how, her seeing what they do is any form of peace, but she's drunk the Kool-Aid, so that's, her mindset with it.
Okay. I think that she is extremely ambitious, but is as sold out to the Imperial ideology as you can possibly imagine. It's this level of, I will do anything to ferret out these terrorists that I possibly can and will go past, I will cross every line in order to find who these terrorists are. And it's not unlike sort of some of the stuff. Nate, I don't think Sam watched this, but you and I watched the Adam Driver movie.
The Informant, or what?
No, I think it's called The Report.
The Report, yes.
The Report.
Oh, about I didn't watch it, but I heard about it. Yeah.
The
aftermath of 9/11.
And the torture and things that were going on.
Yeah. That was a hard movie.
It was a hard movie. And it's one of those, I see her as sort of that kind of a role. Like, the Empire is trying to protect themselves, therefore, security and safety and a better galaxy, and anybody that's against that, we're gonna go to any extreme necessary in order to destroy them, and we don't care what lines we cross, we don't care who we have to become in order to do that. And I think that that's a lesson that we need to take into the real world, and start thinking about as well as when do we become the very thing that we are opposed to in order to try to protect things? It's really like I said, this is a very different Star Wars show, than anything that we've seen. I heard one person describe it, I think it was today, I saw it on social media. Somebody says, you take out the fantasy element of Star Wars,
sci-fi,
and it's a dystopian end of the world type story.
Absolutely.
And it's
some crazy stuff.
It is. Let's talk a little bit about Luthen. I don't know if I'm the only one, but I was a bit surprised by Mon Mothma's reaction to learning that Aldhani was Luthen's doing. I had the impression all along in the previous episodes that she knew that he was planning this and that what it was all about. She knew he was planning something, but when it happened, she didn't know what it was going to be. With that, it seems like Luthen is playing by his own set of rules. Sam, what was Luthen really trying to accomplish with the Aldhani attack? Is he just trying to steal credits to fund the rebellion, or is there something bigger going on?
No, I definitely think it's something bigger. I think this is kind of like not the spark that starts the rebellion, but it's kind of like, heating up the firewood, drying out the firewood. The spark
of the rebellion is what really fantastic 2-part episode thing at the opening of Rebels.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great.
But you get my point. This is kind of like, it's not starting the fire, but it's getting the fire ready. It's all the preparations, right? It's getting the pieces in place. It's kind of getting people uneasy. So it was more than just getting credits. I'm sure the rebellion needs the credits. They're, that's
of course.
That's kind of the whole Mon Mothma storyline in this is she can't get the funding that's hers out of her own bank accounts in order to fund it. That's why she brings in that guy in this in episode 8. I can't remember his name. Anyways, from Chandrila, and he's like a friend from her youth, but he's involved in banking and stuff like that. And he's trying to help her. She wants to use him to help to do that. So they need the funding. With it, but at the same time, there's something else going on with Luthen.
He's trying to get people uneasy and start this. It's probably just to show people, look, we can hurt the Empire. They're not this invincible force.
That's kind of what he says at one point. When I think it was even talking to Mon when they have that conversation when she comes to the antiquities shop again. He's like, we need them to attack. We need the rebels to be afraid. We need them to feel this. They become too comfortable
the Empire to be
with
afraid.
this. The Empire, they're too comfortable like submitting to the Empire. We need them to feel uncomfortable. It's almost, this is like, again, a weird thing to bring into Star Wars, but it's almost like a false flag attack.
What?
A false flag attack would be where a government would fake an attack against themselves in order to bring an attack against their enemy, to blame their enemy for the Reichstag fire in Germany. Was this fire that has been well documented, was started by the Nazis to burn down these shops, and then they blamed the Jewish people for that, and that's what birthed the beginning of the Holocaust starting and all of that. They did that intentionally. Now they did it from an evil perspective. It almost feels like Luthen's like, we're going to attack the Empire so that the Empire then attacks us,
right? Because they started,
because we got to get something going here. This isn't working. We're not having anything happen.
They like doubled the prisoners' sentences.
Exactly, and what Luthen wanted them to do, they did.
It's just not comfortable,
right?
I mean, I feel like there's something more to Luthen that we don't know. There's secrets there that we don't understand, and he has connections to the rebellion. I mean, so it's interesting to see how he plays into it, because we've never heard of Luthen before this series,
right?
And yet he seems so influential in the rebellion. So
probably
what happened? Or
I can't imagine he survives this season.
No, I don't think he survives. But I don't know where he is for the rebellion. He's definitely all in. And then some. So it feels like it wasn't really for the credits. It was for something he's planning, something else, which we will see.
We haven't talked about Cassian, and it's kind of his series,
show, Andor.
With it, it's interesting because Cassian, he thinks he can take the credits from Aldhani and just run, never to deal with the Empire again, and that's what he tries to do by coming back to Ferrix and talking. He pays off his debts to Bix and to the big guy. I can't remember his name. What's the big guy's name on Ferrix?
No.
Shoot, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, anyway,
the dude.
He pays off all of his debts, the big guy. And, he tries to get Marva and leave, and she doesn't want to come, which we talked about at the beginning of the segment here. But
he tries to get Bix, right?
No, I don't think he ever tries to get Bix with that. I don't think that that's the kind of relationship that they have. He's trying to just do right by her and these others with it. He leaves Marva here, to fight for the rebellion, and he wants to go off, and he tells her, let's go find a warm place far from the Empire and just go to the beach, beach to sit on with that. And then he does. He goes to the beach, and he's like, he's hanging.
It's a Star Wars beach resort.
Star Wars beach
cool.
resort was awesome.
I thought we were only going to see that in the holiday
summer
special,
vacation.
It does. Yeah. But then, he's walking through, and, there's all this Empire stuff starts to happen, and he gives Shore Trooper, the wrong look at one
Sam
point.
Witwer one.
Played by Sam
cool.
Witwer with it. And it lands him in prison for 6 years.
That's crazy.
Which it was going to be 6 months, but then the judge didn't like his tone and made it 6 years.
Yeah. We kind of, this helps us get a deeper understanding of the Empire's evil in the way that they pretend to keep, to do all these things. What we see when we get to the prison in the last episode that came out is just twisted.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe I'm just really messed up.
You are.
But it's fascinating in a way how they come up with the way to keep prisoners in line. Maybe I'm just horrible and a really horrible person. I mean, I can appreciate that it's twisted and wrong, but it's still interesting at the, I guess,
it's almost genius
efficiency.
At the same time.
It's efficient. I mean, you kind of get the vibes that they're a little understaffed with. They're like, well, where's the guard? He's still, ran over in this,
That's
area.
true. You do.
But they're able to keep so many prisoners in line with so few people. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I'll give them that. But twisted.
What do you think about the prison stuff that we saw in this last episode?
I mean, it's crazy just to see it because they tried to make it not feel like a prison, just a work camp and all that, but it's just twisted.
Something that kind of was interesting, they were subverting our expectations. They're like, oh yeah, you can get food whenever you want, which I wouldn't expect. They're like, they want you to be healthy because you can't
perform.
You can't perform if you're hungry.
And I'm like, but if you get first place, then you get flavor to the food,
right? And the reward system and how they have prisoners running the other prisoners because they get rewarded for it. It's interesting.
It is.
I'll give them that.
And it was interesting to see how these people that got out and who were sentenced again didn't know the electricity in the floors. Because when they all show up to get the sentencing and everything, they're like, what's going on? And then he's like, well, we're not doing the old ways anymore, the new stuff. And then they turn on the floor with them on it.
Oh yeah.
And you understand that, oh my gosh, the Empire is adapting to a new form of evil, like just pure hatred. And also the shoes that the Empire wear are pretty cool.
I know we need
Cool
we
shoes.
need like Nike to come out.
Pretty
with those
easy cosplay going on. If you want to be a prisoner in the Empire.
Those cosplayers are like, yes, finally something simple for the 501st.
I had a really hard time with this episode because it feels, having been to the National Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. Twice, having been to Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Museum in Jerusalem, multiple times, 4 or 5 times, seeing this progression and the way that they were treating this, it felt like I was looking at a Star Wars concentration camp.
Yeah.
Yeah. Please don't think that like I don't have.
No, I don't. No, I understand. I understand. No, that's not what I was meaning. I'm not saying. I understand exactly. It is a fascinating thing to think about.
I don't find anything in the concentration camps.
No, I know that. This is what the Nazi Party did, though. It was the concentration camps were devised to create a slave labor force for their war and to create an efficient means in order to control that slave labor force. And so watching this, it was bringing to memory photos and videos and things I've seen and stories I've heard, having met with people who lived and survived the Holocaust and hearing these stories. It's a really hard storyline. But it's an important storyline. And again, this is why we talked, this is what we've said in the past. We said it, I think, a lot with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier story, where they would, by putting it into a fictional universe with superheroes in that case, dealing with racism, dealing with nationalism that runs amok, dealing with all of those things in that context allows us to have conversations about things that have happened in the real world in a different way. This, unfortunately, I don't see us having this conversation as clearly in, our social media and things like that. But this feels to me, and if I ever have a chance to ask Tony Gilroy this, I may, like that would ever happen. Anyway, if that ever, it feels like he's saying, let's talk about the Holocaust. Let's talk about concentration camps, and let's put it into Star Wars, and let's have a conversation about what this looks like and the mindset that creates it with it, because that's exactly what's happened in this.
All right, so now for the real dad moment, right?
No. But that's the thing. I mean, Andor's doing that. Is bringing those types of conversations out. But we should probably.
That was a prologue to the dad moment.
The prologue to the dad moment, right?
I am your father.
One of the criticisms of Andor and a lot of the Disney era of Star Wars has been that Disney kind of needs to leave the politics out of it. That's what you hear from people. And that argument centers around the fact that Star Wars is about space wizards and family and designed for 12-year-olds. And all of that, of course, is absolutely true. But Star Wars is it's always been political.
Absolutely.
The Empire is patterned after the Nazis down to their very uniforms and their soldiers being called stormtroopers. The reality is, in my opinion, the Disney era has kind of gone out of its way to show individuals in the Empire and their perspective that they think that they're doing the right thing by fighting terrorists bent on anarchy and rebellion and things like that. But one thing that I do appreciate about this series that sets Andor apart is that it is drawing a very clear line. The Empire is fully evil. And the rebellion, while terrorists at their heart, are rebelling against an evil regime. And I, for one, welcome a little less ambiguity on who the good guys and the bad guys are in Star Wars once again with that. there are some very exciting and potentially difficult challenges that await Cassian and Bix. I mean, she got arrested at the end of this episode. Marva, we don't know what's going on with her. Luthen and Mon Mothma. Before things can get better, I just can't wait to see where the story goes.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Just sucks that it's such a long season. We have to wait so long between episodes.
A week. You know what? Let it breathe.
Yeah, true. Let it breathe. It gives us time to speculate. It gives us time to talk about it. But yeah,
absolutely. Well, anything else you guys want to talk about?
Anything else?
Yeah, Marvel reportedly casts Yahya Abdul-Mateen II as MCU's Wonder Man.
Awesome.
No idea who that character is.
I thought that Henry Cavill was playing Wonder Man.
Well, I think he got a little bit tied up with something else.
I guess so.
It's pretty Superman.
That's pretty Superman.
I should go there and slap you. That was pretty good, though. I'll give you that.
All right. Matt Reeves is reportedly exploring the Batman universe and developing some villain spin-off films or TV shows. Haven't been confirmed yet, but the ones he's planning on doing right now are Scarecrow.
Nice.
Professor Pig.
Yeah, that's weird.
And Clayface.
Hey.
Another weird one.
He's done great. I say let him run with it.
And it was confirmed that an actress was cast for Sophia Falcone in the Penguin show.
Who is that?
It's the daughter of Carmine,
which kind of sets off the long Halloween.
It does.
Oh, like an actual daughter he didn't disown, sort of thing.
And we actually learned what the Penguin series is going to be about. It's going to be her trying to take over her father's empire, and Penguin kind of butting heads with her and trying to fight that too. It's going to be interesting.
That secret Star Wars film from David Lindelof and Lucasfilm sets Miss Marvel's Charmin Obaid Chinoy as director. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about the director of Miss Marvel or one of the showrunners?
We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, Miss Marvel was so different from the MCU, and it is completely different from Star Wars.
Yeah.
So, it was a good show. Let's just see what happens. You know?
Yeah, I mean, the show really became very good at the end.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It built too. Very different than Andor, though. With
just
that.
a little bit.
I think that's it. I think we did it.
We did it.
We did another episode. I'm so glad we got to. Thank you guys so much for listening to Tatooine Sons, a pop culture podcast.
Yes, and if you had a good time listening, it would be awesome if you could share this with your friends.
Yeah, and of course, the show's only a small part of the Tatooine Sons world, so be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter to get in on all the action. You can also keep up to date with everything we got going on at TatooineSons.com.
That's right. And don't forget to follow the show on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss the next episode coming out next week. I'm pretty sure, right? We're going to try that.
Hope so.
We have time.
School and life gets hard sometimes with it. So thanks for your patience on those. Please give us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever podcast app you prefer. It would mean a lot to us.
Yeah.
We'd love that. Anything else you gentlemen would like to say?
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you, always.
This party's over.
I like that Wookiee.
Don't get technical with me.
Joy, please.